Good evening and welcome to the May 9th, 2024 meeting of the Indian River County Planning and Zoning Commission. We'll begin by Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda tonight? I know the draft has been withdrawn, so we have just one agenda item tonight.
Agenda item, yes.
Okay, very good. And that's it?
That's it?
Okay, first item of business is the approval of the minutes of the March 28th, 2024 meeting.
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did I see from the notes that it was 15 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Maybe less, possibly.
It was 12 and a half.
You trying to make me look bad?
No, sir. I'm trying to make you look more thorough than I am.
All right. Excellent, excellent. One item tonight, and that is a public hearing. And it is Community Baptist Church K through 12 private school. It is a request for a special exemption, use and site plan approval to convert an existing 4,000 square foot accessory building into a private K through 12 school. Community Baptist Church Incorporated is the owner, 116 Engineering and Consulting LLC is the agent. This is located at 12534 Roseland Road. The zoning is currently RS3, residential single family up to 3 units per acre. Land use designation is L2, low density residential 2, up to 6 units per acre. Any declaration of ex parte communications?
I have one. I was contacted by one of the members of the church. They were looking to possibly do this school. They asked me what they had to do and what the process was. I gave them a limited explanation, and I explained to them they had to talk to the planning director, go to the planning department to get full disclosure on what they have to do. And then pretty much never had another meeting with them after that, so I don't believe that that meeting would have any weight on my decision today.
Excellent, Todd, thank you. Anyone else? All right, staff presentation, swear-in participants. Anyone who would like to speak on this issue tonight, please stand and be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. Staff presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. For the record, my name is Patrick Murphy, senior planner assigned to this project with Current Development Division. Mr. Daig, you did a very good job of introducing this project, its basic reason for being here. So we will go right into where the site's located. This is the location map. This site's a little turned, so actually to the top left corner is due north on the site and all the maps that's going to be preceding it. You'll see the property outlined in red. It's on the south side of Roseland Road. To the west and east of the property are single-family homes zoned RS3. Across the street to the north, single-family homes zoned RS1. And to the south is actually property in the city of Sebastian. It is a wetland and upland preserved land. And then even further south is the Sebastian Municipal Airport. Aerial map shows the existing site laid within the topography around it. To the north, you see an existing home at 12540. To the very top of this site is a pastor's residence. The church is the grayed out building, sort of on the right side of your page, with the 12534 address on top of it. And then inside the red box is the existing building. This is currently a multi-purpose use building that you're going to be converting into the K through 12 school. Roseland Road out to the left side of your page. Site plan, there's 99 existing parking spaces on the site with some additional overflow gravel parking behind the church. The church operates every Sunday morning and Wednesday evenings. The school is proposed to operate Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. So these uses will not overlap. They will not compete for any of the parking on site. They just don't operate at the same time. Traffic circulation plan, there's an existing full-access driveway out to Roseland Road. You see the little gray shaded sides of the driveway? That's additional pavement that's going to be put in there to increase the radius of the driveway. They're little, what's called turn flares. The site has an internal loop that loops throughout around the existing parking spaces, but the applicant has told staff that what they're going to do is for any parents that are coming in and dropping off kids, they are to park in a parking space and walk their kids in, and then the reverse when they pick them up, park in there, walk in, grab the kid, and walk out. That will avoid any kind of queuing within the site or any cars backing up as they're having to get out. Again, you'll see the existing church in the blue, and then the building that's going to be converted to the school in the red polygon. Stormwater plan, all of the blue shaded areas that you see on the site are as an existing stormwater treatment facility. The two large polygons are actually wet ponds, and the two smaller ones are dry ponds. They're all interconnected, and they work together to treat all of the runoff from stormwater events. However, since the building is existing and no additional parking is required, no new impervious areas are being added to the site, so the existing stormwater system will not be affected in any other way. For the landscape plan, a type C landscape buffer is required around all sides of the property, on all perimeter property lines. Existing vegetation and planted landscaping is going to be installed along Roseland Road and along sort of the east side of the property, just kind of like two property lines, but that everything at the top of the page is all going to be newly planted and some existing melded in together. On the south side is very densely wooded area that exists and is going to remain intact. This is actually going to serve as an enlarged buffer for the single family that's further south and west of the property. The darker green dots are large oak trees that will remain in place. They were planted when the church was built many years ago. They've now grown in size. And then in the southeast corner, there's some specimen oaks that are going to remain. You'll see there's sort of a white area that doesn't have any green in it at all. This area, the church is asking for a waiver from the type C landscape buffer, which they're allowed to do through the specific land use criteria. That would have to be granted by the Board of County Commissioners. Staff is in agreement with that waiver request, as the land to the side of them, or to the east of them, is wetlands and upland preserve. It's jointly owned and operated by the county and St. Johns River Water Management District. It's not going to develop, so that buffer is really not necessary. With that, we bring you to the staff recommendation. Staff recommends that the PZC recommend that the BCC grant special exception approval for the Community Baptist Church K-12 school with the conditions listed in the staff report. Those conditions are: a formal review of the life safety plan shall be conducted by the Indian River County Building Division. It must be approved prior to issuance of a change of occupancy permit to convert the existing building into a school. That the maximum student enrollment shall not exceed 90 students, and that any future request to construct any new principal use buildings or add any outdoor lighting to the play fields, either the basketball court or the playground, will require special exception approval, both a review by this commission and by the BCC. With that, that concludes my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions the commission may have. The applicant is also in attendance to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions to my right? Go ahead.
I have questions, but probably to the applicant. But I also have a question here before I ask the applicant about safety and plan for security. I see a life safety plan. What exactly do they have to do in order to have that met?
So the life to safety plan is actually the interior of the building. They need to show to the building division that what they're designing on the inside, their hallways, their bathrooms, the closets, meet the Florida Building Code for occupancy of the number of people that are going to be actually in the building. That's typically required before the building permit's been issued. And so since that hasn't been signed off at this stage, because we're at the site plan stage, if this is then recommended for approval and BCC ultimately approves it, they can move towards their building permit stage. And at that point, that life safety plan needs to be reviewed by our building plans examiners and signed off on.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll have staff questions and come back to you for the applicant question. Any questions on the left here?
Right now.
I'm not one to do a drive-by on these things because of the quasi-judicial aspect of it, but do you happen to have any photos of the existing building?
I do, actually. You mind I'll walk up and hand this to you, if that's okay?
Thank you.
Patrick, for purposes of the record, once that's done, that has to be submitted to the clerk, and everyone else has to be able to see it too.
Okay.
And that has a occupancy of 90-plus staff and all those people.
Susan, are you wanting that picture to be projected onto the screen?
That would probably be best if you could, so, because they need to be able, the applicant, everybody else needs to be able to see kind of what they're considering, any evidence. So now that he's taken that in here and he's potentially considering it as part of his,
Yeah, it's
thank you so much,
size for just
Patrick.
90 kids. Sure. You just can't see the depth of it, you know what I mean? I think that's what you're not seeing.
So Mark, are you done?
Yeah, as long as the building department likes it, I'm okay.
Okay, anything else on this side? Okay, so would you like to ask the applicant a question?
Sure.
We'll open it after.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
And you are?
I am the pastor and the president of the soon-to-be school,
Okay, and your name?
John Stevens.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stevens, I'm Terry Berenborg. I'm the chair of the school board. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank
Good. Excited about schools, obviously, but want to make sure kids are safe and that you've thought about that. Have you been in contact at all with John Teskey in the district office?
you. I have not.
Okay. He is in charge of our safety and protocol teams, and he goes and inspects schools all the time for making sure everything is in line with everything we have to do to keep kids safe. I highly suggest you do that before you move much further.
Okay.
Because, you know, he can come and kind of give you some pointers and
Would you
things.
repeat that name for me, please?
John Teskey, Teske. He's head of our security department. So the question I have is, where's your fencing on here? How big is the fencing? Where's it located?
In which part?
How open is your campus?
Sorry, could you please speak into the microphone? It's just all this is being recorded, it has to be picked
Yeah.
up. Sorry, thank you.
So as far as a fence around that specific building, we do not have a fence around that building. We do have a fence around the play structure that's in front of that building that completely connects to the building, so they can't leave the playground once they enter that fenced area. Then along the backside of the building is a basketball court, but we do not have a fence that goes all the way around that building.
How about around the property?
We do not, no.
Okay, it's not about keeping kids in, it's about keeping people out.
Sure.
Okay, so that is another concern I have, fencing for your students. Do you have a security plan?
So we're committed to doing whatever the building department says we need to do to be as safe as possible. Obviously, we want to create an environment where every kid is as safe as possible. We, as far as a full-blown plan, no, ma'am, we do not have that at this time, but we are committed to making a plan and make sure that requires us to have volunteer people there for that specific purpose, or even hired people. We'll have to make that decision as we get closer.
Yeah, whether or not to have an SRO on the campus and that sort of thing, great. What's your occupancy for this?
We cannot exceed 90.
90, okay. And so how many students are you looking at?
So we don't know. We've never done a Christian school before. I'm brand new to this, but we're hoping that the school will continue to grow over the years. I mean, if I had to make an assumption, I would guess as the years go, I mean, that first year is probably going to be very difficult to maximize the entire school because it doesn't just have to do with the size of the school. It's how many teachers we can get, how many classes we can do.
Sure.
So our goal is to, obviously, if we get 40, that'd be wonderful. If we get 50, that'd be great. But in the years to come, we recognize that we could never exceed 90, and we're happy with that.
Okay. Concern I have is the fact that you're going to park in parking spaces and walk kids in and out. That's a little bit of a hazard for kids possibly getting hit in a parking lot. Have you thought down the line of whether or not to have a car pickup area?
So we just want to make sure that whatever we do, we don't inconvenience our neighbors, those that are on the road. So we're trying to be as open as we can to that situation as well. And we're obviously, again, like I said earlier, our goal is to keep kids as safe as we possibly can. So if that requires teachers literally meeting the parents to bring them in and out, we'll make sure that happens as well. It won't just be open to however it works its way out. We'll have a system in place, a plan in place to make sure these kids can get from their vehicle to the school without any harm or any
Sure.
concern.
Have you visited other schools similar to yours that you're proposing?
So we have visited other schools, both here in our local area and outside of our state, just try to get an idea of what that looks like. And they're obviously, they run very well, and we can mimic those, but we haven't made any big major plans because we don't know yet how many kids we're going to have and what kind of obstacles are going to be in front of us. But once we do see those obstacles, I mean, as a church, we have 50 kids every weekend coming in and out of our property, and it's our goal, just the same as on a Sunday or Wednesday, is to keep those kids absolutely safe. And I believe that's why we still continue to see kids coming and parents enjoying our church, because we do a good job making them first and caring for them.
Great, yeah, I'd be happy to meet with you afterwards and give you a suggestion of
Yeah,
one or
that'd be
two in the
wonderful.
area that you could go visit. I think that would be helpful.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Big concern I have is safety.
Yes, ma'am.
And just making sure that you have thought of everything you need to think of, and that's why I suggest meeting with Mr. Teskey.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Okay? Thank you.
Do you have Mr. Tessie's contact information that you can share with him?
do.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, yeah, you two get together afterwards.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Please come to either one of the mics, state your name, your address, and if the point you want to make has already been made, please don't make the same point 2 or 3 times. So we'll open the public hearing.
Jeff Klein, 12525 Roseland Road. Bear with me, my first rodeo. I'll try to go as fast as I can, not to take up everybody's time, but have a few concerns. So I managed to talk to Mr. Murphy yesterday, and he told me some things that answered some of my questions, but not as much as to the extent that I like to know the answers to. So one of them right off the bat would be, I got the letter in the mail 2 weeks ago today. My next door neighbor never got a letter. 2 houses over, it's wrong on your map. You have Nancy Lane down 125th Place for some reason, I don't know why. Nancy Lane is to the west of the school. Randy Hines lives there. 2 properties away from the church, never got a letter. It's a public hearing. I'm wondering why there's not more people here. I'm pretty sure, even though Mr. Murphy told me they didn't come into the radius, these people are going to be directly impacted by the traffic. So let me make it clear. I'm not against the school. I have no problem with the school. Got a problem with the traffic snarl that this is going to create. And I would like to speak to Ms.
Aaron Borg.
Thank you. Having the parents walk their students in is a real good idea. And I don't see a safety concern if they're walking with their parents. And what this is going to allow is allow a little bit more time so you don't have 10 cars trying to get out of that parking lot at one time. And that's what's going on with their church service. But I'm letting you folks know, Mr. Murphy said there's a radius, and those people didn't get the letter because they're in the radius. Well, there's 7 houses on 125th Place if you pull up that map. 1 person on that road got that letter, 1. I went to Randy Hines' house, spoke with Randy. I said, Randy, are you aware of this? He says, I don't know anything about it. And then we got to talking, and he says to me, aren't they supposed to post a sign? And I said, yeah, man, I remember in special hearings, you always see a big sign. Well, I went over to the church. The sign is there. It's perpendicular to the road. It's not facing the road. It's perpendicular to the road. The speed limit's 45 miles an hour. And I measured it. It's 17 inches wide. It's 10.5 inches tall. The font is this big. I can show you pictures on my phone if you care to see it. I was 8 feet from the sign. I couldn't read it. And I know anybody going 45 miles an hour on Roseland Road can't read that sign. And I wonder, because I don't know the rules and regs of the county, is there not a minimum sign size? Is it not parallel with where people can read this thing? I had to drive into the driveway to read this sign. So I don't think a maximum number of people have been contacted that have a concern with my concerns in mind as well. But this is greatly going to impact the immediate area with traffic. So I would request or recommend that the church acquires a bus and can pick up maybe half of the students with a bus, or that the school has volunteers, as the pastor mentioned, maybe to use as traffic control, to go out there and let Roseland Road traffic go in both directions, as well as let the people out. But something needs to be done, because the traffic's gonna be bad. That's based on 90 students. Again, Mr. Murphy said they don't have to do anything up to 90 students, and that it did not trigger any kind of extra requirements with 90 students. So, am I gonna be back here 3 years from now because they want to expand and put in another building that's gonna be 150 students? I don't know. But these are my concerns, and I wanted y'all to hear them. Thank you.
So for staff, would the number of people that needed to be contacted? I mean, is this accurate?
Yes, so we have a land development regulation, it's actually 90212 4B2, and that requires a 300-foot radius from the property, and all of the property owners that are inside the radius map or touched by it, this is the map here, were notified. We have a mailing listing here, it was around maybe 24 properties that were in that radius. Typically, you'd pick up a little bit more within that radius with smaller lots. These are a little larger lots, so when the radius expanded out 300 feet from the property, that's the number of adders
Is
that
that
came out.
300 feet from the center of the property?
It comes from the center of the property.
Yeah. What about the sign? Are there regulations about how that sign is posted?
Yeah, 11 by 17 is our typical size sign that we put out in the property. It was posted in the minimum amount of time prior to the hearing by our code enforcement department.
Well, the good news for you is that this board does not make policy, it makes recommendations. This will be replayed at the county commission level, and you can get your forces together. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Scott Harshier. I live at 8275 125th Place in Sunnyfield subdivision. It's the first street next to the church that intersects Roseland Road. It's a private road. There are 7 houses on that street. I live on lot 6 on the river. I was not made aware of this change at all. No one told me. But for me, I vote no, and my reason being, there's no infrastructure to support this. I've been here since 1980, and over the last 40 years, I can't even get city water, but now somebody's gonna do this. You know, this is gonna impact negatively all of us that live there. There are no streets that actually run perpendicular across Roseland Road that go anywhere until you get to US 1 or 512, Fellsmere Road. So all the people at Collier Creek, people like me, really local, anywhere there's a lot of people this will impact that have no idea that a tornado is coming. You know, with a hurricane, you get a 5-day warning. This is like, boom, all of a sudden, I found out 2 days ago. So I feel slighted, and I don't think it's fair, and I just wanted to voice that respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Jeff Reel, 8265 125th Place, Sunnyfield Development. Just a couple of questions for safety. Was a traffic study done? Or do you need a traffic study? Is anybody aware also that there was a motor vehicle death right there in front of that entrance to the school? And that there's been numerous fender benders,
Let's start with the traffic study.
Yeah.
Staff?
So next, section 952.07 of our traffic code requires traffic impact analysis for any project that's going to generate an average daily trip count of 400 trips per day. Based on a maximum of 90 students using the Institute of Transportation Engineers Traffic Trip Generation Manual, the land use code, which is 2.53 trips per day per student times 90, comes to 223. So it was about 177 trips less than the minimum that we need to actually legally require a traffic impact analysis. Our traffic engineer did look at the site, and did not warrant any other type of improvements, bypass lane or what have you. That typically would come from analysis, but we weren't able to require one.
Okay, will, the speed limit there is 45. Now, will they lower the speed limit in that area? Will they have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit? Approaching the school, leaving the school, like they do at other schools with that? And will they put a light in if they feel that
The
it's
amount of
feasible?
traffic does not constitute a light. Just like you were saying, it doesn't even constitute a traffic study by
Okay.
law. So
Okay.
by law, there's no way possible that they're gonna be, it's enforceable to make them put a light at that intersection of that school in
All right.
Roseland. And I live down in San Sebastian Springs, so I travel Roseland Road all the time also. So, I mean, I understand.
What about a lower speed limit associated with the school?
School zone.
I could talk to our Public Works Department about that. There wasn't any of the suggestions that they passed along to me. But, I mean, I can certainly ask them and see if that warrants that. You typically see that with public schools that are a little larger, has a little more traffic, and also has students that are walking to and from school, not knowing what their immediate populace is going to be, where they're drawing them from. I'd imagine at first it's going to be the parishioners of the church or churchgoers. Parishioners, I'm Catholic, so that's the word I'm used to using. But I can certainly go back to the traffic engineers and ask them if that's feasible to do that.
You know, K to 12, you got all the new drivers, you know, and students bring in their cars to park, you know. Just a question. You know, I was a fireman in the Bronx. Unfortunately, went to a lot of accidents.
I agree with your concern about that speed limit, and this is something that maybe you can coordinate with staff on.
Okay,
I think that's a real valid question.
good. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
My name is Steve McHugh. I'm at 12523 Roseland Road. My driveway entrance is basically just a little bit to the west of the entrance into the church. So I'm in direct conflict with traffic coming in and out of that thing. Once that traffic starts queuing in the westbound direction to go into the church, I can't turn right out of my driveway and I can't turn left. That driveway right now services 4 homes. We're not opposed to your school. We want your school. But in the morning, if you go out there at 8:30 and you look at the traffic, there's no traffic study, but 45 miles an hour, it's gonna be hard getting a queue of cars trying to get into that school. And if we have to get out of there for any particular reason, sometimes with the church lets out, you know, it's tough getting in and out of there. But every day in the morning and afternoon, it's gonna be very tough getting out of that driveway. I don't know if the staff's looked at that. I would ask that they would look and see the amount of traffic on Roseland and the speed they're doing and the impact that, how many cars are gonna be in the queue at one time? Because once they queue up there, where my driveway is located, their driveway's over here. I'm not getting out. I just put my car in park and wait for the school to get all their kids in.
Yeah, valid concern, and I suggest that you coordinate your question with staff.
Okay.
That,
Well, isn't it part of the record so that staff's got it right now and they should be looking at it? Or do I have to
don't
formally do
know,
it?
don't know.
So, I just want to make very clear for the record that I think staff has already said, and we can't require the applicant to do anything that's not legally required of them. And if this is not a legal requirement, we can't require them to do anything extra. We can't require staff to have them do anything extra. They only have to do what's legally required of them. And for this, I mean, since it's not looked at as part of, and I understand the concerns for the traffic, believe me, there's concerns for traffic all over the county, but there's, it's not one of the requirements. It doesn't meet the threshold, so we need to stick to what's the criteria for the special exception, and it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, compatibility with surrounding land use, adverse impact. So I just want to be just caution the board as giving what, recommendations as to what staff should be looking at with some of the citizens are more than welcome to give their input and to say that, but I just want to not give anybody a false impression of what staff can and can't require of them and what this board can and can't require of the applicant. That's all.
But the applicant could voluntarily work with these people.
The applicant could voluntarily,
Right.
yes.
Right.
This being a special exception, does that give us any other leeways?
No, it's pretty much the same thing. You approve with conditions, deny, and when you deny, you have to give the reasons for your denial.
What it ends up is you have standards that you're trying to meet. Well, a standard is set up to do a majority of it. There's exceptions to every rule. This driveway that I'm on is an exception to the rule. So I understand your standard that it doesn't meet this criteria, but it doesn't take care of the couple of items that always fall through the cracks of these rules that are made for the general purpose of everybody's good. But there's always somebody that's suffering. No one ever gets fixed completely. So if there's an easier way to do it, I just ask that you look into it.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not anti-school, and I'm not anti-God. We have 4 parcels there. Right now, the 4 parcels are served by the driveway in my parcel. I've got it deeded over, but there's no reason to believe that in the future, once we're dead and out of there and our kids sell that stuff, that somebody's gonna want to put a driveway out onto Roseland Road. Now, if there's a high volume thing over here, we got our parcels assuming that we could put a driveway in there no matter what happens. So if these guys get 29,000 more exceptions to end up having a 40-story school over there, we want the ability to have that driveway, and I would like that stated that, hey, you're not losing your right to your driveways. Hello?
So, and I'm sorry, but what I'm hearing is kind of I can't give you an exact expounded response other than the person that has control over driveways and access. I'm not sure if Roseland Road is a county road. Is it a city? It's a county road. Then that would be a question for the Public Works Department. They're the ones that issue the driveway permits all throughout the county. So I can't tell you what you would and wouldn't be able to get, as they're the ones that regulate, because there are certain feet that have to be met and certain setbacks that have to be met as far as driveways. So I can't speak to that, and the board can't make a promise to that.
They approved my parcels. So they approved the parcel with 60-foot frontage. That's part of the requirements from planning department. That dictates that I can put a driveway there. They didn't put any exception there. Oh, look, you can't have a driveway here. Just because I'm utilizing this one doesn't mean that those other 3 parcels don't have a right for a driveway. And you're affecting the cost of that property if somebody wants to put in a driveway and they're not allowed to. Because now I have a big trip generator over here that's clogging up the whole works. The parcels were approved within the last couple of years. So as far as I'm concerned, we've already got approval. I just want somebody to tell me that I have approval and that it can't be taken back from me down the road.
So what I would state is you should go to, and they're open every day of the week. I'd go right down to the Public Works Department. I'd bring your plat, because I'm sure you platted all this.
Yep.
Bring it down to them, have a discussion with them, explain to them the situation, and get some confirmation on additional driveways for the other properties in your plat. And I'm sure that they'll.
It's not a plat, they're 4 separate parcels.
I understand,
Four
but I'm
different
saying
owners.
at one point, that was probably one bigger piece, it was probably broken up into other pieces, okay? So what I'm trying to say is, just go down there and see them with all the different property identification numbers, and they will give you guidance, and they will explain to you, what can and can't be done, regardless of a school. Because that school, in my opinion, obviously, I'm not the attorney here, the school shouldn't negate somebody having a piece of property being able to access the road off their property, especially when there is no other access road. So you can't mandate that everybody gets to drive through your property if they don't have any ownership, or that driveway wasn't deeded, the rights that your driveway wasn't deeded over to the other 3 properties.
It was deeded to the other 3.
Well, then that's why you need to go see Public Works.
Right. But it wasn't a mandate that they get deeded so, because they weren't allowed to have a driveway.
Well, that's why you gotta go see Public Works. See, I can't tell you, because I don't have all your paperwork in front of me. No one here has anything you've done in front of them, so they really can't make that kind of decision. You have to go see Public Works. That is where you're gonna get your satisfaction.
Public Works.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sympathetic. I wonder if this is ever done at the smaller schools where they stagger the start time by grades or groups of grades. And also, I was wondering what the rules are for establishing a school zone for speed limit purposes. You know?
And again, too, you think about that time, you're talking about the cars and everything, but I'm sure that a lot of the people who are gonna go to this school are probably going to be people who go to this church. They probably have more than one child. So you're gonna be reducing the amount of cars on the road in reality, because a lot of people are going to have 2 kids in their car. Or they're all friends and, hey, today you pick up the kids, tomorrow I'll pick up all the kids. So you're probably not going to see 90 different cars every day. I sincerely doubt that that's what's gonna happen. But I just wanted to kind of put that out there, because when you say 90 students, everybody's thinking, there's gonna be 90 cars in a 30-minute span coming in and out of this school, which I can see how that would, be an issue.
I only need 12 out there, and it's gonna
Well,
stop at me for 20
I understand,
minutes.
but on the other hand, too, everybody has their property rights, so they're trying to effectively exercise theirs, like all of us have done with ours. And everybody that builds a house, everybody that puts up subdivision, they dump onto that road. So everybody has a hand in the traffic jam that occurs from time to time on Roseland Road.
Yeah.
So we all have a hand
Biggest
in that.
difference being is that I'm an RS1, they're an RS3, and they've been exempted into heaven, so to speak. They get all the good stuff. If we went and tried to get any of that, we wouldn't get the same consideration.
Yeah,
That's my opinion only, but.
But
Understood.
One last-
they don't all have to arrive at 8:30.
Again, I think she had said that we can't put any special rules on them that aren't in the code for us to do with the volume of students that they have.
No,
I think as the amount of students rise, I think the standard rises along with it.
I'm not proposing that we make a condition, I'm just suggesting that maybe the concerned public work with planning and the planning work with Public Works or whoever they need to.
Well, I'm certainly, everybody's gonna try to work together to make it easy for everyone. This process is really at its beginning right now.
And I think that a school zone would help slow things down and make access and egress easier. I see school zones all the time, there's no school anywhere near. Like an entrance to Bent Pine, for example.
I have a question for staff. I know there's another church down on Roseland Road, and I think that they have a school there also. There is no school zone there.
They dropped the speed there. It's down to 35.
Down to 35? Well, okay, then that's something you guys might want to discuss with staff and traffic.
Yeah. And they walk their kids across that little cut street to get them in.
Yes, sir. I'm just curious. That's why I was
Yep.
running that through my head. Thank you.
And then if I may, maybe it might be good to have the applicant come up here and maybe they can, or tell us if they'd like to implement any of this stuff or if they're willing to work with the community. Maybe that'll help get some clarity.
Yeah, let's let Mr. McHugh finish first. You have other,
Yeah, I just have one more item I want to
Yep.
pick up. It's towards staff. You're going to be having now a lot more cars in and out of that parking lot, and you're going to be getting a lot more pollutants being discharged into your retainage system. I wonder if that's something that you have to look at, or is that something that just goes with, I don't have any more impervious ground, and I can put as much pollutant in there that I can.
So as part of the process, the engineering department did a thorough review of the site. As the site continues to develop, if there is more development, the engineering department will continue to look at drainage impacts. If they end up building additional buildings that could lead to an extension of the stormwater ponds, extension to the drainage infrastructure, so it all gets looked at every single stage when it gets built. Because this site was already completely built out, the drainage didn't really need to be addressed at this time, and it's up to the engineering department to decide if and when it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, that was my question, though.
If they did do any expansion at all, it would have to come back here for
Absolutely,
conditional
yes.
use and to county commission.
Yes. It's basically like a brand-new special exception every time you add to it.
My question was basically, I know that the drainage area is the same. Water's gonna hit the pavement's gonna drain off into the drainage system. Along with that water is coming a whole lot more pollutants, because now you have cars parked in there every day, leaking oil, leaking gas, rubber tire, more tire, everything's gonna go into that pond closest to Roseland. Has the staff looked at what that impact's gonna be? And do you need to look at what that's gonna be? My question being, is that pond discharges into the swell on the south side of Roseland. And there's a culvert right there to the west of my driveway. And when that water comes across there, that directly discharges into my property. There's no retainage on that north swell. So I don't want a bunch of extra pollutants coming into my property. I'm getting enough of it now.
So stormwater systems are designed and modeled based on the amount of impervious that is being put upon the property. How much water runs off, it goes into the ponds and is treated. There's a level of time where it detains and is retains before it's discharged, ultimately during heavy flow events. Stormwater ponds are not based on the number of cars entering or exiting a site. If you have a commercial property and it has X number of square feet of impervious, it has to have X number of square feet that it treats that runoff. If that business happens to do really good and has more people coming to it, they're not required to increase the size of their pond. So it has the system designed right now for the amount of impervious that is on the site, and they're not adding additional impervious, so we can't by law require them to increase the size of their treatment system.
I think that would kind of be akin to the public site on Roseland Road. 20 years ago, they had the same size parking lot and a lot less people, and now we have a lot more people. They shouldn't have to make their retention larger because now there's a greater population.
Correct.
It's not worried about the retention. Again, it's the pollutants coming out of the pond that I'm worried about. Now, if you're telling me that the added pollutants are going to get settled out in that pond and in the ditch, then I'll take you at your word if you did your work.
Well, to be honest, I believe those calculations of use and impervious area are all calculated into the size of that stormwater retention.
Right.
So usage doesn't come into it as much because that's built into that already, that, hey, it's full-time use, and they take that into their calculations is what I'm assuming happens when it is designed originally. I'm not an engineer.
Right.
I've dealt with a lot of them, and I understand how stormwater works and what the retention does with that. So I don't think that it will increase any kind of pollutants coming through there because the stormwater was originally designed to handle that full capacity based on the impervious area. So I think those retention areas are designed to handle that no matter the amount of traffic that comes in or out.
Yeah, again, I agree with that 100%. I'm not, that's not my argument. My
Yeah.
argument is that it's a church, and when they did it, do they have to have 50 cars in there all day long? Or were they just doing the pollutants based on Wednesday and Sunday at church?
They don't do calculations based on Wednesday and Sunday at church. I can assure you that. It is.
So they assume that
it's
that
not-
parking
it
lot is full?
It has to do with all of the.
7 days a week.
Yeah, it would have to do with full-time usage and everything, from my understanding. Staff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that that's how that's calculated when they do that. Unfortunately, engineering isn't here tonight to address that for us. But that is where you'll get your answer on that as well, would be to address the engineering department and Public Works there.
If you look at the exhibit that has the retention ponds in it, it just kind of looks to me like they might be over capacity in terms of retention. But you could check with Public Works about.
Water doesn't bother me. It's tires, gas, oil coming across the road. That's what bothers
You've
me.
said that a couple times, so
All right.
let's wrap it up.
I'm wrapped up.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cliff McHugh, 12519 Roseland Road. Thank you very much for being here, by the way, and doing this public service, so we appreciate that as community members. I have a direct question for staff in reference to the last traffic study that was done on Roseland. Did we know when that was?
Traffic study for the entire Roseland Road?
Yes, sir.
I do not.
Was it within the last year? Within the last 3 years, last 5 years? Would you estimate?
I do not know when the last study was done on Roseland Road.
I would think that would be a necessary condition by this point in time on traffic flow, right?
I can speak to that. Andy Sopcich, Director of Planning and Development Services. Our county engineering department does periodic traffic counts on all of county roadways, and they typically do those twice a year. So every 6 months, they'll do a holistic count on, for example, Roseland Road.
Okay. And those results mean, and how do those results are interpreted and how they're used?
So those results, so based on the design of the road, we know what its functional capacity is. And as we look at those numbers through time, that's how we project out when we need to widen, when we need to add turn lanes or whatever it is.
Right, so where is it at in its capacity?
Roseland Road is on our long-range plan for improvements. It's got some constraints. It's limited in right-of-way into certain areas, but it's significantly under capacities as far as, you know, it's not a failing roadway at this point.
Okay, so I can request a copy of that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the second part of that, thank you very much. The second part of that traffic flow, and not to repeat somebody else's, during season versus non-season, as residents, we know the difference. So the timing of a traffic flow could be significantly impacted. So I would also have requested that this was at least during a school year, school time, right, during season.
To be overly cautious, we apply a correction factor to all of our traffic counts. So we measure them as if they're at the peak of season all year round.
Okay.
That way we're never undercounting.
Okay, and the last one, I said that too. Does that include flow, traffic flow? In other words, you can count cars, but time,
No, I mean, it's just the
from
value.
destination to destination, because you've
Yeah.
only got, like was noted earlier, you've only got 2 other exits out of there, basically, off that long stretch of road.
Yeah, well, we don't measure flow directly. There is a grading system for roadway capacities, and we assign it a letter grade, and that kind of speaks to how it's functioning. So
Okay,
we have a rule in our comprehensive plan that none of our roadways can operate below a level of service D, which sounds bad, but it's actually quite good. So that's the standard we're shooting for.
and Roseland is what?
I believe it's a C.
So is that approaching capacity?
Yeah, once you get past a D, you can start to get like cycle failures where you see a red light and it goes green and you don't get to go. That's one of the measures of failure, but it's quite a bit under that at this point.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. McHugh. Anyone else?
Good evening, Tim Borden, 12885 Indian River Drive. I'm a member of the church. I've been helping with the school, and I got to say, I am so excited that the north side of the county is going to have an option for Christian education. With the way the world is these days and everything going on, I think more of these are needed. And just to reiterate a couple things, the school's not going to be over 90. I know there's all this other assumptions that what if we do this, what if we do that? We're only here for 90. And I don't even know if we're going to get to that, but we want to be able to have the flexibility to get to 90. And I also want to reiterate about the traffic. Sundays, church services, when they're overflowing between the first service and the second service, there's 300 people between each service, so that's the peak time. And the school is not going to be operating any times, anything close to the church operating. So the traffic flow should not be any problems whatsoever. And with the parents walking their students up, I know you were concerned about the safety. I mean, I would feel safe with my 3-year-old in my hand, walking them up to a building versus just opening the door and dropping them off. I know Roseland Christian right up the street does the same practice where he goes to preschool now. We actually have to park, walk him in, check him into the classroom, and do all that stuff. But we had the option tonight. We could have packed this room up with supporters and people who are excited for this. But our church, our community, especially the north side, is super excited about having a Christian alternative to schooling. So we thank you guys for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Couple comments. One,
Wait.
sorry, somebody else going to speak?
Anyone else?
I think I'd be remiss not to say thank you to each and every one of you for being here tonight to help us through this process. And I also owe a great debt of gratitude to the county and the staff. We had no idea what we were walking into 12 months ago when we thought we could just start a school. And they've just been great walking us through this. And we want to just say thank you to each and every one of you for your support in those matters, helping us get to that place. Thank you.
Pastor? I just want to make one comment.
Yes, sir.
From what I've heard, on Sundays, you have a total of almost 300 people there. I understand the traffic concerns, but at the same time, if there's not a problem on Sundays, and we're talking about school hours, you're at 1/4 of those numbers. And like Mr. Brugnano said, most of those kids are not going to come in one individual car.
Right.
So it seems to me as if the traffic is not going to get worse. It's going to be better Monday through Friday.
Right.
During school times. Just my comment.
Yes, I agree with
Thank
you.
you,
on that.
staff.
Thank you.
Eric?
Sure, thanks. Couple comments. I wish that every parent would walk their child and hold their hand. It doesn't happen. I'm going to be real honest with you. I've been a principal of a school, seen it thousands of times where a parent has 2 children and they don't want to get one out of the car seat. They just let the other one run across real quick. Parents are not in their heads. See it every day. It's scary. I'm just letting you know, okay? There are procedures you can do, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that. Private schools and public schools are different on their requirements of lighting, of school zones, of things like that. I'm not sure exactly if they can get one or not to get that reduced speed. That's why you notice whenever you go by a lot of these private schools, you don't even notice they're there because there's no speed zone out front. The reason why we have a speed zone or a crosswalk, like you said, over by Bent Pine is because we have a major middle school down the street and there is a crossing guard there. And so where you have a crossing guard, where you have a study done, where you have a lot of kids walking to school, we require a crossing guard. And so we have to have that ability to stop traffic and move people. That's why that's there. Same thing on Oslo Road. You don't see a school there, but there's a school down the street that kids are walking to, and that's why you see those. The concern I have about, and I hear them with the traffic, I get that. I've been a principal, and the 2 worst times of the day for traffic are pickup and drop off. I agree with you, you have multiple kids in the car for sure. At private schools, you tend to have everybody driving, hardly any walkers unless they live right next door. So that's not going to be a big concern as far as kids and their safety. That's what I worry about. Is there a sidewalk there? Okay, good. The other thing is you're a private school, so you don't have to do the same safety procedures that public schools do. But if you pay attention to the news at all, it's not just public schools that have to be concerned about safety. Private schools very much have to be thinking about that too. I mentioned John, it's not a requirement to go to John, but I'm just thinking, John works with our schools and he works with the charter schools because that's who we're over, the school board. But we're not over private schools, and I'm all for school choice. So my thought would be to maybe pick his brain on some things that could help you with security. That's my biggest concern. Children need to be safe. And safety getting to and from school, walking into school, walking out of school, but also being safe while they're in the building. And, that's why I asked the questions I asked. Thank you.
Good. Has everyone who's spoken who wants to speak in the public hearing? Very good. We'll close the public hearing. Any additional, Commissioner, comments or questions?
I just thank Terry for being here tonight. You've given us a lot of insight. Thank you very much for your concerns and your questions. They're very insightful for what's going on here. So I appreciate the fact that you have given them some resources to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think to you guys, just in the future, not just in front of schools, but consider this everywhere, sidewalks. We had a tragedy recently up in Sebastian, and I think a lot of it was because of the lack of sidewalks for a child getting hit and killed. So we need to constantly think about keeping kids safe all the time. Thank you.
Good. Call for motion.
Motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Approved. Commissioner matters. Any commissioner matters?
I have one quick one,
All right.
and I know everybody's cringing, but
How do you know that?
last meeting, we approved like 540 units, or over 500 units. And something I haven't heard in the couple of years since I've been on the board is that not planners, not developers, but the general public that I talk to, and they don't talk to me because I'm on this board, but they all say, we don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough hospitals. And this doesn't have anything to do with Sebastian going bankrupt, but it's just something I'd like you all to think about, because I'm looking for a doctor for myself. And a couple of weeks ago, the first appointment I could get was in middle of June. And that, it doesn't seem like a long time now, but back then it did. And so, like I said, I just wanted to plant that seed for maybe some future discussion. Because that's not something we look at concurrency-wise, right? We look at schools, and we look at traffic, and we look at all these, seems like everything else, but not medical care.
All right, very good. I guess that this is the first meeting where there hasn't been a mailing. We're not doing mailing to commissioners anymore? Is that right?
Yeah, it's actually the second meeting. The last meeting we had.
First
we
meeting for
didn't do
me,
that.
yeah.
So eventually, we are going to move to the Granicus system.
To the what?
The Granicus system, which is our online system that we use for the BCC meetings. It's going to go for every board in the county. So basically, all the packets and stuff will be available online to the residents and to you guys, so we don't have to do mailers.
Well, we're already getting our packets online.
Yes, that's correct, yes. But it'll be available to everybody, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
All right, so-
they're not online in full. We get a mailing that's got attachments with it, but like the commissioners don't get it. My commissioner is always complaining about the inability to see these things. And so maybe this new system will improve.
Yeah, that's what Granicus will fix, because right now, all the BCC agendas are online. You can go to the agenda, click on the link, and then it'll pull up all of the packet information within that agenda item, and this is what Granicus will fix for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Thank you.
Next meeting, when's the next meeting for planning and zoning?
So I believe we are going to be canceling next week the next Planning and Zoning, because we don't have anything right now. So at minimum, it could be not the one next, but the next one after that, which would be the end of June. Yep,
The end of June?
yeah.
This is the second meeting in May. Cancel it first.
Yeah, we're gonna cancel the first one in May, most likely. We don't have anything at this moment. Now, something could always crop up, but right now, we don't have anything. So at minimum, it'll be the second meeting in June.
Is it June 20th?
It should be, yes.
Okay, thank you. Planning matters?
Nothing tonight?
Attorney matters?
Nothing, thank you.
Excellent. Adjourned.
Cheers.